No matter what you go through, keep dreaming. Keep going, don't quit, keep reaching. You can be the best you wanna be, gotta believe it.
All right, can I get everybody to stand up? Can I get everybody stand up? Stand up. Can I get my mic on? All right, stand up, stand up. So if you feel like you have a dream or a certain lifestyle that you want to experience in life, let me hear you make some noise. I don't feel like that's loud enough. Let me say that again. If you feel like there is a dream or a lifestyle that you want to experience in life, let me hear you make some noise. All right. So money to fly me and my mom out to New York. And so as we're driving through the city, I'm looking up at the skyscrapers. And remember, I said I'm from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And it was in that moment that I realized that dreams are possible. The capability to bring a dream into reality is true. But there were some things that I had to learn, some things that I had to go through. I had to learn how to believe it. I had to learn how to see it. But then I had to learn how to take action. And so that is one of the things that I wanted to talk to you all about on today. So as I get ready to get into my speech, first and foremost, I just want to give a special recognition to Jonesboro Business Association for having me out. So can we give them a round of applause? What they're doing for you all, what they're doing in the community is truly amazing. But secondly, I want you to give yourselves a round of applause. Whether you were dragged here or you willingly showed up, you sitting here shows me that you want something greater out of your life. So can you give yourselves a round of applause? All right, now, certainly but not least, I want to give a special thank you to God. Now, that's not a cliche for me. Anytime I feel like God places me on a platform or a stage, I'm extremely grateful because one of my gifts, one of my talents is to speak. I travel across the country speaking at different people, inspiring different people. So one of the greatest things that you could ever do is when God blesses you with a gift, when he blesses you with a talent, you then go take that out into the world. But we're going to talk about what that looks like. So as I was thinking about what it was that I wanted to share with you all, you see, I write every speech from scratch. I reflected over my youthful years and I asked myself, if I were sitting in that seat, what would my younger self need to hear? And so you see this beautiful, handsome little boy on the picture behind me. I used to think that I was handsome. And so during this time, that was one of the greatest years because that's when you used to have a thing called imagination. And anything was possible when you were younger. So I started there, but then I evolved. I became somebody else through the course of time. And so you see the adult version of me. So if I had to give a title to what it is that I want to share with you, it's built by a dream. Can everybody say the word dream? Dream. Now there's another word that's going to come on the screen and it's called inspire. And I used to hate this question when people used to ask me, what inspires you? And I hated it because I felt like I knew the definition, but I really didn't. You see, inspiration, inspire, it's like the igniter to your dream. But a lot of times we get inspiration mixed up with motivation. Motivation is an emotion. I can feel motivated today, but not motivated tomorrow. But inspiration changes you. So if I had to give an example, I like sunrises. Don't laugh at me. I like to see the sunrise. Motivation would be me getting up tomorrow in order to see the sunrise, but I may not feel that way on Sunday. Inspiration tells me that I want to see the sunrise because that helps me to get into my day, which helps me to feel motivated to change the world or whatever. So now I go to bed early. So inspiration is this thing that actually changes you. And so when you think about inspiration, you got to figure out what will help me to change, to become the adult version of me, to become the greater version of me. That's what the true definition of inspiration is. Now, there are some statistics that I want to share with you. 80% of the people in the entire world believe that inspiration is important to their lives. So pretty much everybody in the entire world, they emphasize inspiration, but a lot of people don't truly understand what it means to be inspired. So then you ask yourself the question, well, how can I find inspiration? Well, about 54% is found in nature. So that means I got to get off my phone. I got to get out. Remember, I said one of my inspirations is the sunrise. So I got to get out into the world to figure out what is inspiring me. But then the next is movies and TV shows. One of the coolest things that I realized about movies and TV shows, when you are watching that, you are watching somebody else's dream come true. So now I'm watching this TV show. Now it's inspiring me to maybe create a TV show, to become an author, to become a movie director. So then you move on to stories of kindness. When people tell you stories, those are opportunities for things to inspire you. And then the last is going to be travel. Traveling outside the country, traveling around the world. But maybe you say, Mr. Girley, I don't have the funds to travel around the world. I was listening to a guy one day, and his name is Ed Milet. And he said, go touch the dream. So I'm not asking you to necessarily travel outside of the world. I'm asking you to travel outside of your environment. Get out of your neighborhood. If there's a neighborhood that you envision, go drive by that neighborhood. If there's a car that you feel like is a dream car, I don't know if y'all can go test drive it, but go touch it. Go experience it. Go touch the dream. Let that be the inspiration to help you change your life. Now, as we move into inspiration, there's the first thing that I want to share with you, your why. Now, this is another question that I used to hate because people used to ask me, what is your why? What is your why? And I didn't know. And the reason why I didn't know is because I didn't understand why. Why is like a guide. It's my directional path. And so sometimes the reason why we struggle with answering the question, why do you want to become this business person? Why do you want to create that business? We often say the thing about, oh, well, somebody else did this or somebody told me this. Your why is special. If you ever look up in the night sky, there are billions of stars, but I can't take somebody else's star. But there's a particular star in the night sky, and scientists, all of these different people have identified that as the North Star. The North Star is a guide. It's a directional path. So when I figure out my why do I want to create this lifestyle? Why do I want to experience this? Now I set my why in front of me. If I set it in front of me, remember I said it's a directional path. Now it's guiding me to the place that I want to be. But a lot of times we ask, where can the why be found? The why can be found in pain. Maybe you grew up in poverty. Your why is that you want to experience wealth. You want to create wealth. It's coming from pain. Maybe you grew up in a single parent household. Your why is now you want to create a nonprofit for families with 2-parent households. Your why, your purpose can be identified in your pain. When I figure out my why, now I understand my purpose. When I understand my purpose, now I have the vision. Now I have the path that I want to take. So when I'm figuring out inspiration, that's the very first thing that I got to identify. I got to identify my why. Now, inspire. I've broken this down into 7 letters as an acronym. The first, imagination. N stands for no limits. S, start small. P, pursue daily. I, ignore distractions. R, resilient. E, execute. So what does that mean, Mr. Girley? So remember at the beginning, I said that there were 2 phases. 2 pictures of me. There was a baby version, then there was an adult version. When I think about inspiration is taking my imagination, moving it into an action phase in order to bring it into reality. So when I think about the first 3 letters, I stands for imagination. Your youthful years, you got to tap back into that. When you were young, that toy car was a real car. That little baby doll was a real model. So if I'm trying to figure out what is inspiring me, I got to go back to my youthful years. I got to take a journal out. I got to write down what it is that I used to like playing with. What is it that used to drive something within me to create something? So I start with imagination. But then I moved from imagination to no limits. When you were young, there were no limits. You would go touch the stove, whether you thought it was hot or not. But there were no limits. And as we get older, we allow society to put into our minds these walls. But in order to chase your dreams, you got to remove past that and understand that there are no limits. So then you move to the letter S. I got to be willing to start small. Before you ran, you learned how to walk. But before you walked, you learned how to crawl. And so when I'm understanding the things that are inspiring me, they are helping me slowly move into an action phase, but I got to start small. And so that's going to be the imagination phase when I'm thinking about things that are inspiring me. Now, as I move to the action phase, this is where things start to pick up a little bit. The letter P, I got to be willing and able to pursue it daily. The biggest thing that you can use is consistency, the willingness to do it every single day. Now I start to move a little bit faster. I start to move a little bit quicker, but then I move to the letter I. Ignore distractions. By a show of hands, how many of you have heard of the word haters? Now, by a show of hands, how many of you feel like you have haters? I often tell my audiences that I don't have haters. And the reason being is because I don't know whether people like me or not. But if I got my why in front of me, what I'm focused on, the rest of the people, they are ignorant. They do not matter. Just because somebody does not believe in you does not mean that your dreams are not possible. The dream and the vision that God gave you, you are the only one that can see it. So just because somebody else can't see it does not mean that what I have is not possible, is not capable. So I got to be willing and able to ignore the distractions. But then I move to R. I got to be resilient. I got to be willing to take some bumps and bruises along the way. Remember, I said I'm moving from the imagination where I'm stepping into action. I got to be willing to take some bruises along the way. When you were learning how to ride a bike, you failed multiple times. You went from training wheels to no training wheels. You failed multiple times, but it didn't stop you. You got bruises, scrapes along the way. It didn't stop you because there was a goal. There was a dream. You had some type of inspiration that told you it was possible to ride a bike without training wheels, regardless of the scars, regardless of what happened. So I got to be resilient. But then the last, I got to be willing to execute. Now, one of the wealthiest places in the world is the graveyard because so many people die without bringing their dreams and their goals and their visions into reality. And the reason being is because they have the plan, they have the vision, but they do not take that leap. They do not execute. And so I got to be willing to execute at the end of the day. I can have inspiration all day long. I can have the plan, the knowledge, but if I don't execute, then it's all null and void. Now there's a small word that's come on the screen and millions of people get on stage and they tell you, you don't need fear. You got to move past doubt. I don't want to tell you that because where you're going to your future, it's like a dark cloud. You've never been there. You never met your future. So the possibility of fear, the possibility of doubt is real. The only thing that I want to share with you is where to place it. If I understand where to place it, now I know how to move with it. Remember, I said if I'm going in my future, if I have my why, there's a proper place to put fear and doubt. I got to put it behind me. It can exist because I've never been there before. I'm not going to dismiss it, but I'm going to place it in its proper place. I put my why in front. We're going this way. My why is here. Fear and doubt is here. But then I need something walking along the side of me. Now, by a show of hands, how many times have you sat in class and you said, I don't even know why I'm here? I'm raising my hand. Y'all can be shy about it. The thing is, when it comes to knowledge, when it comes to education, we sit in class all day long, and the reason why we don't like it, the reason why we say, oh, this doesn't matter is because we have yet to make the correlation on how knowledge and education relates to the dream, relates to the plan. So I'm going to give you an example. Let's just say you want to be a doctor. Obviously, if you're sitting in science class, you have made the correlation that science relates to you becoming a doctor. So now in science, you're paying attention. But I'm going to take it a step further. Let's just say I want to travel the world. I want to be a doctor, but I want to travel the world. So now when I understand that I'm traveling the world, there are many cultures out there. These many cultures, they speak different languages. So now when I'm sitting in Spanish, I'm paying attention because the correlation from Spanish helps me to travel the world, to speak and experience different cultures. But then you say, oh, I want to be wealthy. I want 6 figures, but you don't pay attention in math class. Math is teaching me financial literacy. So now when I become the doctor, now when I travel the world, now I have the finances I understand because I have the knowledge that goes with it. So it's not that you don't like knowledge. You have yet to make the correlation of how knowledge applies to the dream, or knowledge applies to the goal. So again, if I'm on my journey, I got my why in front of me. I understand that fear and doubt exists, but it's behind me. But I'm taking a friend along the side of me, and it's wisdom and it's knowledge. But at the same time, I still got to be willing to take that leap. How many Marvel fans do I have out there? I found a great clip. In 2018, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse came out. And if there was ever a greater clip that talked about having your why, your purpose in front of you, understanding that there will be fear, there will be doubt, this is an opportunity for you to take that jump.
With a blindfold on. Mama always asking what did I go wrong. Danger. What's up, Danger?
Now see this spark. It's amazing. Whatever you choose to do, it will be great.
Our family doesn't want complaints.
You're the best of all of us, man. You're on your way.
When do I know I'm Spider-Man? You won't. That's all it is, Miles. A leap of faith. Like, what's up, danger? Like, what's up, danger? Like, what's up, danger? Like, what's up, danger? Made of myself. They fit perfectly.
And so my question is, what is your jump? What is going to be the thing to make you take that leap, for you to jump off? Because you don't know where you're falling into. But a lot of times we are afraid to make that jump. And the reason why we're afraid to make that jump is because of a word that we like to familiarize ourselves with: failure. But failure is not what you think it is. Let's replace failure with the word falling. In that clip, Miles was on the edge of a building. He knew what he wanted to become. He knew who he was destined to become, but he had to jump. And when he jumped, he began to fall. But you see, he wasn't falling into the ground. He was falling into Spider-Man. He was falling into his future self. So whenever I get to the point where I'm now willing to take that jump, the inspiration, the things that are inspiring me, helping me to change, when I get to the edge, and now I jump, I'm not falling into failure. I'm not falling to the ground. I'm falling into my future self. I'm falling into the future businesswoman. I'm falling into the future millionaire. I'm falling into the future congresswoman. And if I ever give myself an opportunity to fall, then that gives me the opportunity to soar. So you got to be willing and able to take that jump. I often say it's okay to dream, but it's not enough to dream. At some point, you have got to take the action. At some point, you have got to take that step, and that all comes back to you finding a way to execute. Now, maybe you say, okay, I understand the acronym. I understand the visual. What about like a real life scenario? In 2018, I thought that I had met the love of my life. I thought that this woman was going to be my wife, and that couldn't have been further from the truth. I ended up going through a tremendous heartbreak, one that I thought about killed me. But I went through that heartbreak, and remember I said that sometimes your why, sometimes your purpose is birthed through pain. And so I was going through that heartbreak. I was reaching out to friends. They were telling me, oh, there are plenty of other women out there. I was drinking, becoming an alcoholic, all these different things. And so I was sitting in my room one day, and I said, I don't like this. I want to share my story because I want to help other young people who are battling depression, battling their emotions. So in the moment of pain, there's purpose being birthed. And I said that I wanted to write my autobiography book, The Black Accountant. So that was my why. My why was birthed through pain. I understand what it is that I'm trying to accomplish. But remember, I said that fear and doubt, they exist. What will my friends think about me? What will my family think about me talking about drugs? But I had to set the fear and the doubt behind me, and I had to set my why in front of me. I wanted to help people. Inspiration, things that are inspiring you, will help you to create change. I wanted to change the way people thought, the way people think about emotions. So that was my why. Then I have the fear and doubt behind me, but then I needed knowledge. I didn't go to school to be an author. I went to school to be a football player and an accountant. I did not know how to write a book. But I went and got 5 books from authors that wrote autobiographies. And I read every single one. And I learned how to write a book because I wrote an autobiography, and I learned how I made knowledge correlate to the dream that I wanted to take. And then the final step came where I had to take that jump. I had to take that leap, and I had to put my book out there. And no, it did not become a New York best time seller, but it has impacted thousands of people up until this day. And so if you're ever sitting in a seat and you're asking yourself, what is the formula for life? How do I create impact? How do I create the life that I want to live? It's all through inspiration. Remember, I said inspiration is the igniter to the dream for you to accomplish your goals. When I figure out what is inspiring me, it's allowing me to take the imagination plus the action, and all of that allows me to create impact. If inspiration is changing me and I put it into action, now I create impact that's willing and able to change the world. So inspiration is changing me, that allows me to create impact to change the world. And so that's what inspiration and all of those things are going to be. Now I got one more segment. I need y'all participation as I get ready to wrap up my segment. I need everybody to stand up. But I want us to truly understand what it means to have inspiration, imagination, plus action to create impact. All right? So I need everybody to clap. All right? Keep clapping. Keep clapping. Now close your eyes. Remember I said you've never been into your future. You've never seen it, so you have no clue what it looks like, but there will be a voice on the inside of you telling you and showing you where to go, helping you to figure out what it's going to be in order to take that next step. At some point, you got to take the jump. At some point, you got to take the leap, but your dreams are possible, but I got to figure out what's inspiring me. I got to take the imagination. I got to understand that there are no limits. I got to be willing to start small. I got to pursue daily. I got to ignore the distractions. I got to be resilient, and I got to be willing to execute. But when I execute, I take that jump. When I take that jump, I'm not falling into the ground. I'm falling into my future self, and I'm giving myself an opportunity to soar. We've all been given one life. Open your eyes. No clapping. We've all been given one life. And the one life that you have been given, you owe it to yourself to find some type of way to live it to the best of your capability, the best of your impossibility. One of the words that I hate is impossible. But I've taken that word and I've broken it down, and instead of impossible, I broke it down and I said I'm possible. Because anything that I believe, anything that I envision, the capability of it is real. As I always say, peace, love, and more importantly, keep dreaming. That's my time, y'all. Thank y'all.